welcome to Model Actress Whatever. So just to get everyone up to date, I'm fully podcasting now. All the episodes will be available on iTunes and you can subscribe. Please definitely subscribe, rate the show, give me comments, make it so that I get up in the iTunes ratings. Also, I have the PayPal tip jar, tip CC. Make sure that I am still able to do Model Actress Whatever podcast coming to you from everywhere. I've been recording this in my own apartment in Venice Beach and West Hollywood, and when I'm on the road. In fact, in the last week, I've been in Vegas, San Francisco, back to LA, and then I flew to Miami, and then I'm in LA right now, about to fly back to Vegas to DJ tonight. Miami was awesome. I did my 24-hour Cotton Show DJ gig, and Lauren Conrad was there. She was sequestered in a corner and unable to talk to anyone. That was one of those moments where, that's the celebrity wrangling aspect of it, and is they're at the event, but they're in a corner texting by themselves. Don't you wish you were a celebrity? I bet she got paid a bunch of cash though. I DJ'd the wall. It was fun. The DJ before me fucked me up and did that hot dog styling of dropping all the hits before I went on. I was really pissed, and it kind of threw me off. And DJ etiquette is that, if you're so I was the headline DJ for that night. So the opener, they're not supposed to play all the top 10 hits right before you go on, because you're the headliner. You're supposed to come on and play the biggest banging music of the moment. So he totally fucked me up and show dogged, and then it's just sometimes being a female DJ, I just want to kick people's asses and I can't. What else? I don't know, DJing a lot. I'm about to fly to Vegas. I'm a little nervous because, with the incident at the wall and the hot dog DJ and getting off my set early. But then, I played the fashion show during the day for the 24-hour Miami fashion show. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. I heard it had 600,000 streams, but that was because it was on people.com and it was a huge event. But, it's hard to be okay, I'm a good DJ. It's everyone's a fucking DJ. And so now I'm supposed to go tonight and play Vegas and feel good about it. And so, hey, I hope my booking agent isn't listening to this. So next thing up on the thing, went to some commercial auditions. I also did a little weird acting gig with my friend Saudi. We went to the Universal lot and did a lighting test all day, which was kind of fun. I just ended up tweeting and going back and forth and trying to figure out how to podcast. Getting this podcast up has been a bitch. But now I fucking have it up and I can do it. I had Retina up and Porcelain Black, and now this is a show I've been holding on to because I had to do a lot of editing because the model Mackenzie, she doesn't want her identity to be known, and also it's a touchy subject that I'm hitting on this week, and I hope you enjoy it. And there's some editing there, and I hope it's good. Podcasting, now I'm this is gonna be my fourth one in, I guess, or possibly my fifth one, because I have to get this approved before I can put it up. And the Model Actress Whatever Mackenzie decided that I couldn't put her podcast up. It would endanger her relationship or something. I don't know. She ceased and desist, and told me that the episode was not good and that it needed to be disposed of, because probably she doesn't want people to know that she's a 22-year-old dating a 60-year-old billionaire, and it might fuck up her relationship with the billionaire. I wouldn't want to do that now, would I? So let's focus on people who are actually doing things other than fucking old guys. Here's Annakim. She's a musician, artist, and super creative lady with crazy political views. You're going to hear throughout the episode. She also happens to be the offspring of Tom Petty, the American legend rock star Tom Petty. So she goes into some of her adventures being his daughter, which is very interesting, and her creative process as well. So I don't remember what her real name used to be, but at some point she legally changed her name to Annakim Violette. And now she also has a performance, or she's releasing her music under the name Marcella Glass. So let's get into our conversation with Miss Annakim. Hi.
Hey, what's up, Cece?
What's up, Annakim?
How are you tonight?
I'm good. Welcome to Model Actress Whatever.
Oh, thrilled. Lovely.
Annakim is an old friend of mine. She lives in a big purple house in Silver Lake. She's an artist, musician, and pretty much local Silver Lake celebrity. International celebrity. She's shown at Colette in Paris. She's been in lots of magazines. She had an art residency in Iceland. Tell us more.
I'm going to be in a short with Ryan Tricardon is directing. He's a video artist, and that's going to be cool. And then I'm going to have a full-length album that I'm really excited about that's going to come out in about 3 months. And right now I'm pushing a dance EP I made about a B-movie mermaid that escapes a Nazi war camp and comes and attacks LA. And so that's up on SoundCloud, motherfuckers. I mean, people, sorry.
It's okay. It's a podcast, so we don't...
Okay, motherfuckers.
Motherfuckers. What else? So, how long did your dance EP take to make?
Well, the first EP was supposed to take, like, not that long, and it's all computers, and I was listening to all this really scary music, like Kraftwerk and Goblin, and just seeing all this, like, internet creepiness on the news about kids getting abducted and baby beauty pageants and all these really disgusting pop stars that, like, look like they weren't. It just looked like a really intense machine for so much madness. And so me and my friend made this dance EP that took probably, like, if I'm honest, 7 months, because it kept going, like, vampirically awful through all these hands. And then the other one that had real musicians on it took 3 weeks. So it was 12 musicians, 3 weeks, and the other one was, like, roughly this, like, horrible meld of, like, calling people, losing vocals, like, shit getting erased. It was awesome. So I think the album reflected life, and it just became, like, a madness. And then the second one was, like, a labor of love.
Tell us about, like, is art and music the same for you?
It has to be an era where we want to make more of an effort to have real music. I think that it's more the art of it now I'm seeing is that it's not as difficult to play as much as it's difficult to have the willingness for society to see what it takes for people to get this together, because I love electronic music and dance music, but I feel like if we lose the capacity for editing and, like, the production and, like, the skill and the storytelling of it, then we're losing our culture.
So I know that you're super influenced by Alice Cooper.
Oh, I love him as an artist. That's a good point, because he, I think, took production and the news and women's rights and all these gray area topics that the hippies couldn't quite see both sides of, and the stubborn society wasn't ready for. And he took all these aspects and made these very normal, mundane things appear shocking. And musically, I feel like he, you know, reached a really good showmanship. Like, it was a really solid, cool band. And he had Bob Ezrin, and visually worked with Salvador Dali and Cartier, and like took advertising to a level of honesty of being on Hollywood squares. So I feel like I miss that type of entertainment value that has like American history involved in it.
I feel
and
like
music.
I know that you say that like kind of shock value. If you guys out there want to check out some Anna Kim's, like, her stage name is Marcella Glass, right?
See.
Yes, Marcella Glass. And one of her videos, as an artist, I find it very interesting because of she just goes there with her videos. I think she, like, there's one, she's completely naked, painted black, and she's just singing to the camera. What is that video called?
There's a video for The Black of the Blood, and I wrote it about when I was a teenager. I'd watch USA Up All Night, and my friends would do acid, and there'd be these terrible B-movies of the Toxic Avenger. And I thought if I crossed that with, like, the news where I kept seeing, like, all these, like, people in Africa, like, getting, like, you know, just, like, torn apart, and like watching all these documentaries, I was like, I want to make one that's like this tribal USA Up All Night. I'm gonna be in blackface and like be like this home warrior. So that was what it was signaling.
But to me, you were seriously wearing black. Like, it's just black. It's not like brown, like blackface.
Rai Gazelle did the makeup. She's an amazing makeup artist. And I had David Bowie's Aladdin Sane, and this spoke of these African children that had gorgeous war paint and flowers, and it was made all on the earth. And they just look like, you know, the next level of supermodels. They had their glow, and they had their integrity, and they had this like amazing performance with nature. And I was thinking if I could cross that with Aladdin Sane, and I painted my walls black, and then we got one light and flashed it, and we had that Jimi Hendrix vibe because she painted this like skeleton warrior, and I was just like, this is it.
I mean, that video blows my mind because I find with my videos, they're so like on the nose and just kind of glamorous and like get hot chicks and whatever. Your videos always blow my mind because they just take imagery and do DIY, but then you have that glamour side to you.
Thank you. Marie Christensen shot it. She is a photographer and filmmaker. She's helping me with all my projects. She just did a film, and she shoots a lot for Elle and fashion magazines. And right now we were talking about getting that type of high concept glamour and mixing it with the news and with reality, and how right now we're narrative against facts and we're change against tradition. And so for a woman, I was thinking for these videos, if I make them surrealistic, then they'll be pungent and they'll be effective. So she was really responsible for helping curate like this amazing editing job, and we did an underwater camera.
When is
and
this
Becky
coming out?
Stark gave me a dress, and like I jumped in my friend's pool, and like we shot it, and it just was magic. And I had no eyebrows and purple hair. It was fully, you know, cleansing baptism. It was rad.
And that's still the Black is Blood video?
Yeah, that's the Black of the Blood video. We did 3 different locations, and the other video we did at the Hollywood sign, and we had this comedian from England, and he came out, and I whipped him over and over again, and afterwards he was like, "You're the sweetest girl." And I was like, "Thank you." And we went to the Hollywood sign, and we were influenced by a cross between Helmut Newton, Kenneth Anger, and the USA.
I totally saw the Kenneth Anger, and the Helmut Newton was just obvious because it's domination, but...
Well, Helmut Newton gives women a power and a strength that I think, like, it doesn't look like they're overshadowed or they're masculine, and mental vibes are being used against them. So I think the style over substance and the constant in art, and to have integrity, it's like you can see in, you know, these artists that say they're indie, but they pay $100,000 for their album. They have a producer, and they have, you know, 5 homes.
Who is that? Like, who are you talking about?
Soko, who, maybe,
oh!
90, you know, you can an album for $90,000 and you say you're an indie artist, I guess, okay, but she's great. People love her. I'm not dissing. She's very talented, but she's not an indie artist. She's a celebrity from France, you know? So it's like, for me, I want to look at it as, I want to make art, you know? I don't want to just say I don't eat animals because I love fur, you know? I want to play guitar because I love instruments. I want to act because when I get out of the box, it's like, you know, I am American too. I'm 110% American.
Give us a little bit about your past, Annakim, because you have a really interesting story. You're from Florida.
Well, what's interesting is my background. My great-grandfather was Native American, and his birthday is the day before mine. And I was actually, you know, thinking, like, when he was born, it was during a time when his parents had crossed the border, and his mom, my great-grandmother, was full-blooded Cherokee Indian. And in order to cross the border, they had to kill someone with an axe or something weird and change their last name to Petty, which was an American name, which meant grace over small details, like hitting someone with an axe across the head to make sure you can live in America and be okay with life. So he was more into, like, you know, axe wielders or whatever. And then he was extremely, extremely not into the Native American thing. It was almost worse than being black at the time. And he had very, very dark skin, black hair, and, you know, this weird light blue eyeball that I have. And so me and my father and him all share, like, this very same resemblance of the high cheekbones and, like, the big ass teeth and the light eyeball. Yeah, exactly. So my parents were born to this time in the 50s when they were noticing, like, you know, his ethnicity was really strange, and my father was born during a time of much social progress, and his lifelong journey was to make music and to make the social awareness of what's happened to America and Native Americans, and how, even more so if you think about it, for music and for folklore and for what we consider pop culture was tribal culture back in the day, and that we have these Native Americans that are now 300,000 people, and that culture is lost. And so then you think, like, the Jewish Holocaust was 7 million people, which is on all Hitler all the time on the History Channel. Yeah. And then you see that the Native Americans, this is 50 million people gone in a very small time period. And there's 300,000 of them, like, living by a nuclear plant, and they're all alcoholics, and their culture's gone.
Don't completely dismiss. They have Indian casinos now.
Oh, yeah, so basically they're responsible for all world money torture and land torture, so it's like all addiction. So it's like, we can think of this, like, I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, every time you talk about Hitler, let's talk about that his notes for building the concentration camps in World War II were based on the Native American concentration camps, which if we look into and we Google on the internet this, because it's not as popular.
Yeah, I don't even know that much about it.
If people want to, you know, Google this, it's much cooler than, it's as cool as Grimes or whatever that stuff is. If I get hair braids or whatever, maybe it's cooler. You know, if it's cool as ecstasy to Google Native American death camps, I promise you kids, it's just as cool as, like, you know, your phone or whatever bullshit. But anyways,
is there an app for that? Can we make an app for Indian genocide?
Dude, who do you think is fucking on that? That's what my music app is, basically. But anyways, it's like, you know, next time somebody talks to you about, you know, torture or whatever, let's look into Native American genocide. This is 50 million people that were sent to death camps. Their hair was scalped. Their children were tortured. This has all been documented.
What years was it?
This is actually not, if you really look where this took place, this is at the turn of the century, pretty much. So it's like this is very modern in terms of history of someone that's studying during this hippie culture where the present is all we have and the past never existed. That's why we're all going to, like, end up eating each other like cannibals. But it's basically, like, if you look into this.
This is why I love Annakim, everyone. She just gives it to you raw dog.
Yeah, I'm at the mall. If you guys ever want to come see me, I'm at Pacific Sunwear. Peace and love. But anyway, it's basically, I think that if we really look into the pattern of genocide, and right now how we talk about things like music and, you know, recording, war propaganda started much during the time when, like, film and recording was becoming popular post, you know, playing the fucking guitar for your friends. So it's like, when you think about these Native American people, they were the first rock stars because they performed and they were badass and they were really intuitive, and so they were always in trend. And then after a while, war was the first thing that made us feel like we were never going to be good enough. We were never going to have heroes unless we killed somebody. We would never be able to save ourselves unless we were like tortured and censored.
Well, so even now, it's like the media and hero culture. It's like there has to be a bad guy and there has to be a hero, and these people over here, they're bad and we're good, and it's just the what you're talking about, war.
We're shy creatures, and we're told that we're supposed to be like these outgoing like entertainment pieces for everybody, otherwise we're not spreading joy or inspiration. It's like we're taught that all our judgments are bad, which is like, if you think about it, it's like awaken from your judgments, have flexibility, see multiple sides. Like, we have a culture that's not historically looking at the civil rights movement. Like, we're apathetically going, oh, nothing gets better. And I'm like, hey man, like, if I can walk down the street with like a bald head and like just go get a nice coffee and like read, there's some forms of peace that might be boring, but they're there. So it's like we can have these conversations. Women weren't always even allowed, otherwise they would get burned at the stake like witches.
That's what I'm saying. When people start getting down on me about like whatever, not being married, not whatever, I'm like, dude, in the 70s, I wouldn't have been able to have a career. In the if I wasn't.
Career women are crazy. Career women, it's like men complain about women wanting to suck them dry like a banshee. And if a chick is a better job than him, then he'll go to the first chick that's going to sell greeting cards on Etsy. You know what I mean? It's like, you're not allowed to have a really high concept, badass lifestyle in this day and age, because their mommy and daddy don't want that either. They want to make sure you join the army, or like you're always in survival mode. We don't want a culture where we have healthcare. We don't want a culture where we have politics. We don't want a culture where women have the right to say, like, I want healthcare at my job, and I want to be able to have, like...
I want to get paid the same as men.
Well, the thing is with men, if you think about it, like, they used to be faggots that would go fuck each other, throw up in a bathhouse, come home, rape their wife, and then, like, have a nanny take care of their kids. And the men that couldn't afford that were called servants.
Model, actress, whatever doesn't endorse that, but Annakim does.
Yeah, so these, like, sex slaves will fucking go to, like, any lengths right now to say, like, can a woman have a relationship and have a career and, like, be not, how many kids are there in the world? There's, like, so many kids that have no parents. Why does everyone have a damn kid right now? And also there's so many married people that cheat on their wives or have a porno collection that outweighs any video I've ever made. So I think, like, that's something to think about. Like, oh shit, I want a husband that has a porno collection? Great, I just won the lottery.
Dude, there's a porno collection accessible to everyone. It's called youtube.com 24/7. It doesn't matter. Like, porn, what are you talking about? I know you're not anti-porn.
No, but I'm saying there's, like, we're in a culture right now where the baby beauty pageants rival, like, sanity. Like, people think that's normal. People kidnap brides. People marry 13-year-olds. It's like, it's a really interesting time period to see things change. I'm excited about it.
No, but think about it. Like, we didn't even have jobs in the 70s. Now, like, women are, like in China, women, the billionaires, a lot of them are women. For repressive...
That's because it's smart.
Huh?
It's because it's smart to, like, all of a sudden see. I mean, my thing is, I said, if I ever did any public work, I'm going to get laid because of it. Like, if I do anything, I'm going to get, like, a dude, like, like in the same way a guy would get a girl. And so I spent my life in my 20s, I feel like, as a bro, where, like, I didn't have one boyfriend, I dated a ton of people.
I witnessed this, people.
Yeah, and it's just like I slept my way to the top. So basically I'm saying now, I feel like the smartest thing people can do is, like, men aren't knights in shining armor. So for these people to pass it off, like, if women got married to some dude, it's like, it's been psychically proven that times have changed.
Well, but then you're talking about two different things. Times have changed, and women are able to have their jobs, their own life, be a bro. But then you're talking about actually societally, like, men can't handle when their girlfriend makes more money than them, has more money than them, is not subservient, isn't going to, like, be
I dated one guy
that
that
relationship thing.
You know, I dated one guy that had a small penis, and I said he could dish it, but he couldn't take it. And he had told me that I was just trying to be famous, and I was like, yeah, I really do this instead of doing some, like, shitty reality show or something, or, like, you know, any fucking get-rich-quick thing. I was like, that's why I'm doing, like, fine art that's controversial, or, like, ugly art, or, like, whatever people want to call it. But it's like, at the end of the day, whether people love or hate it, you don't do the shit I'm doing just to be famous, you know? And so this guy ends up dating, like, a stripper that says she's, like, 25, but she's 40. It looks like she's, like, hit every bump in the road and says she's just waiting for a reality show to happen. And I'm thinking, someone's waiting for a reality show to, like, hit them in the face. So it's like, we're taught as women, you have no choices. You don't make your life happen. It just happens to you.
Who are you talking about? You're not talking about me or you or anyone in my audience. So this topic is over.
Yeah.
We only deal with rad chicks. And, like, basically, like...
women make choices. Like, the thing is, you need to teach women that it's like, you, for business, you need to make your own choices. You need to say, if I'm an artist, I want to be a proper artist. I want to be respected for making this choice to be an artist, not because I'm entitled for people to like me or not like me. That's up to them. But, like, putting in the work to say, like, I'm not just waiting to see if I can sell my soul and have some motherfucker retouch me. It's like, you have an essence, you have a voice, and people love that. And I think it's an interesting time, and I think people are more open-minded, and I think for women, they need to trust, they need to be able to make those choices because they're responsible for what happens to them. They're not responsible for how people act, but it's like, when their life changes for whatever reason, they have their resume, you know? So I think it's basically, it's like, if someone wants, you know, a career as an artist, you have to say, like, I'm not waiting for it to happen, I'm doing this.
Yeah, it's so true. Like, for anyone out there, like, wherever, it's, you can't be like, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna make a video, tomorrow I'm gonna write a song, tomorrow. It's, you have to do it today. You have to compile, you, because at the end of the day, all you have is your repertoire and your portfolio and your work.
It's timing, but it's also just the integrity to say, like, walk your talk, you know what you want. If someone just wants to be a model, that's great, nobody can judge them. But if you want to do other stuff and actually have an impact and some responsibility for the inspiration you're creating, that's a psychic mental field. That's the concentration.
And I can't. Let's talk. You went back to the 1800s and your grandfather and in Indian culture. Can we talk about when you were a child and what your childhood was like?
I think that I had a really interesting childhood because my parents had come from a very ignorant town. I think the people were very racist. They were very sexist. And that as much as it was quaint and beautiful and that times were supposedly simple, they're really not. And I think the more that time goes on, we're seeing this, like, you know, thread that from the way that they raised me was during a time period when their lives creatively was really blossoming because they were in their 30s, and it was at the beginning of the 80s, which was a very strange, scary time, kind of like how it was about 4 or 5 years ago in the world.
I feel like the 80s are awesome.
Well, I think what was happening at that time is that, you know, my father's career was booming, and my mother had me.
Who's your father?
My father is Tom Petty from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, one of the most amazing rock bands ever, respectively. And I think that during that time period, they were really in some amazing art that wasn't very popular. They had grown up with their heroes, which were the British invasion at the time of the Beatles, the Kinks, the Who, the Rolling Stones, and my father become, you know, overseas, like kind of a sensation in America, and was just starting, you know, an MTV career because MTV came out right around the time when I was born. So I would grow up with that, basically. I
know you have an older sister.
I have an older sister named Adria, who is amazing, and she raised me during my teenage years in New York. We lived together, and she's extremely kind and extremely smart and talented, and she works with Regina Spektor, who's also extremely kind, beautiful, and smart.
She's a music video director as well? Isn't she a director?
She's a musician.
Oh.
And so with my sister, she's doing music videos and hoping to do film. And then I have a young brother who's awesome, and a stepmom who's awesome and super sweet. And then I have my mom who's cool.
So take me back to the 80s. So you were born and your dad had already hit, or like, because I remember you had talked about your older sister was like kind of in this era of when they were like in hotel rooms and like.
I think he was new wave, basically. It's like there was all this music coming out that this is like post-punk, and it was during an era of like major disappointment because they had 1969 the Mansons, and then they had this punk era come in, and then they had this kind of weird capitalist freak out. So it was like the dawn they're in was like technology had come to like a really weird place, and music was changing to where the music video was becoming extremely popular, and so they had synthesizers, so it wasn't the same as like the British invasion anymore, because the disco vibe and the funk vibe that kind of saturated. So I think what was interesting, it was he also really loved Graham Parsons, which was cosmic rock, and that was also a part of it. So it had these deep roots too of American, like Bob Dylan, Woody Guthrie, like very classic songwriting structure. So during that time, I remember it was very flamboyant. Everyone had Western shirts with sequins. That I was, always had really strange haircuts and was introduced to these very odd movies, like these strange B movies, and that I remember as a kid thinking that they were the shit, that they were really funny, and they always had blonde hair, and they would like blow dry their hair together. It was super psychedelic. And then I looked like the fucking kid from the Jungle Book. I had dark black hair.
So I have a question. So were you raised in Florida, or were you raised in LA?
No, I was raised in Los Angeles primarily as a home base, and we would tour, and then during the summertime, a lot of time I would spend time in Florida. But I think that the majority of the time of my childhood, I was Los Angeles based for sure.
And so did you pick up the guitar while you were a child, or was it intimidating?
I think the biggest musical impacts on me in the songs that I like were mainly guitar driven, like looking back, like all the things musically that now that as I'm like really saturated with what I love, I feel like I love Jimmy Page, like I love Jimi Hendrix, like I love Peter Green, so I love all these guitar heroes. And when I was a really, really little kid, my dad was in the Traveling Wilburys, and they made me a left-handed guitar, and I felt so awkward being left-handed. I'm like, no, that's cool, and it felt like kind of like, it felt like being like this fruit. And so he's like, all you liked was My Little Ponies. You didn't want to play guitar as much, but I really love piano. And so I got into all these like old folk songs on piano and had this really boring, scary piano teacher. And I remember I loved piano, but the guitar, I had this weird dark stigma about my hand,
Mm-hmm.
And then when I think it wasn't until I was like, 15, 16 that I would start playing chords with people, and then all throughout my 20s, be like, want to play guitar, want to do this, and then finally, after Lady Gaga, I was like, fuck, anyone can make an album, I'm gonna do something.
Well, I know I've seen some pictures of you, and you're like cross-legged, like 8-year-old, doing like some meditation, and then there's another picture of you that I love, and you're like on a camel with your dad in front of the pyramids.
We were sent to Egypt after, basically it was like, I think that the pyramids were still pretty freaky at that time, and the airport Egypt was covered.
What are you talking about?
Arriving in the airport in Egypt, it had tons of chickens, it had tons of goats.
What year?
This was like 1985, 1986. Someone would have to Google it. I'm bad at facts, but basically it was like sometime in the 80s I was in Egypt, and we arrived in the airport, and there was like machine guns everywhere. We were with a ton of dudes with machine guns walking. I was with my family, and we were with Bob Dylan. And it was funny because I was in between Bob Dylan and my father. And it was just like if you get off a plane like that, you feel like that's the weirdest feeling. And so we're looking around, and there's like hundreds, Bilio people, and I looked up and I was like, you guys sure have a lot of friends, like totally, like this is dope, like this is like I didn't, you know, that my little suitcase from England that had this like happy person on it, you know, like the whole like happy face family. It was a good time.
How and so that was during the Traveling Wilbury
years? This was pre-Traveling Wilburys. This was during the Bob Dylan tour. Bob Dylan had been in retirement, and my father had idolized his songwriting, and I think like a lot of his values towards music, because he was very iconic, but he was like a Renaissance man and really respected all these people that had kind of been, you know, wayward. And I think my father was much like that he had heroes that then he wanted to resurrect. So it's, you know, because some people say, like, you know, his songwriting stays the same, but I feel like it does have diversity. It's just normal folk songwriting in that sense.
Well, it's storytelling I mean, your father's songs, Bob Dylan's songwriting cannot be rivaled. It's just I mean, to say it's classic is not the right word. It's
definitely traditional in the sense that I feel like if you listen to a Bob Dylan album like Desire and you listen to the music and the creativity with it, it's very modern, it's very beautiful, and I feel like it's very magical. But there's something with all the storylines, like, to the songs where those storylines were real. So he was writing about these deep topics of like during a time when like desire is lost and it's only associated with something negative. And he was basically writing this album that's one of my favorite albums, and it was all about, you know, don't lose your desire. And I think right now that type of songwriting will come back and people will have the attention span for it and have the clarity from it. I just think everything, because people need to make money really fast, had to do the, you know, certain songs that really fit with certain commercials, and so the commercials overtook the songs, and people didn't care, and now the songs can overtake again.
Well, I hope they come back, because at this point, like in the music industry, it's just like your song doesn't hit the consciousness.
Native American tribal people need to run the music industry, like bring them back. And then it'll sound really good. They'll have really amazing percussion.
But what
not like burning their percussion, like real, like smoke signals.
But what I'm saying is, like, in the music industry, I don't feel like a song has a chance to hit the consciousness of the nation unless it's on a fucking TV commercial for Toyota Prius or something. It's like all the other kids and that's when a song hits, or you know what I mean? Like, there isn't like arenas, everything's so like little pockets, like on SoundCloud and
people don't want to think
YouTube
anymore. You take someone like Kurt Cobain and you see his impact was not just out of beauty, it was out of the fact that the guy was willing to not be liked. I don't think everything's a cliche or a gimmick or integrity because someone didn't want to be a rock star. You take someone like him, he wanted to be a rock star. He loved Gus Van Sant. He loved high performance. What he didn't like was what, you know, I think was growing around him, was that no one would, you know, not take the drugs away. No one would be like present because all of a sudden everyone fell asleep, and that's the downfall. So you lose these genius people like Elliott Smith or Kurt Cobain that write these amazingly haunting, daunting fucking songs. But, you know, they're just as good as ABBA or like any pop sensation. But the thing that's missing now in culture is we've dumbed everyone down. Everyone's polite or shocking. There's no bleeding hearts.
Well, I think I feel like there's so much sadness and so much tragedy. Why, like, you know, I feel like in the 50s or Bob Dylan time or even the 80s, there was more idealism.
Well, the problem, I think, with idealism is it's the same thing with desire. It's the motivation and the catalyst. Like, if you have a dream, it's not going to be the same when you wake up because there's just a message. And so that from that point forward, it's like it has to take shape. And so I think the thing is the kids that hear Bob Dylan now, it might not have the same impact when it came out, but it's still relevant as a catalyst for inspiration because it is classic. It is beautiful. It does have weight to it. So I feel like right now, if people want that
in
culture, they have to stop watching reality shows. You know, they have to stop doing.
Don't blame it on the reality shows, man. Real Housewives.
But that's the thing is, like, if we see people as boring and we don't want to see them as unique, or that they can be have, instead of envy and jealousy, inspire and have ideals and have goals, it's like, you know, with music, it's like, if something's disappointing, fuck it, I still love this, I'm always gonna love this. It's like, people could say whatever the fuck they want, get off your ass and do, you know, what makes you happy. It's like, that's why I'm doing it.
Not everyone's a creator, you know what I mean? I think it takes a special person, like what you were saying earlier.
That's the thing. Everyone is their own cult leader, and their cult leader is crazy. That's the thing. It's like, you have to see
Jonestown.
Am I drunk? What?
No, I said, okay, Jonestown Massacre.
Dude, by the way, I think our nation as America, I know I sound like a total nut, like Ted Nugent, I am, but it's basically, like, if we looked at every person's mind as, like, the army, where they're like the I Ching, like Sid Barrett or something, where it's like, dude, if you learn to play guitar for a week and post it online, you're fucking rad at this point, instead of, like, playing World of Warcraft or, like, whatever the fuck.
Oh,
like,
true.
If like, getting pussy equated with someone playing an instrument, that would be great. Like, I think that would be also, like...
But Annakim, at some points, like, I don't play guitar, but I've been in bands for the last 10 years. But... because I feel like everyone else can play better than me, so why should I try?
But the thing is, like, this is what's interesting. If you look at most of the rock stars, or these, you know, icons, artists, poets, everyone, they're dark people, and, like, I think that what they were talking about was the gray area. It wasn't the area of perfection, meaning that's the end, that's why we like it. You know, it's complex, it's beautiful. Like, you listen to Nirvana songs and you don't feel like shit. You feel like there's joy. You're like, fuck, this is real. This doesn't, like, affect people.
The melodies are pop and the words are just real.
Well, we associate, like, it's like someone like Soko says she hates pop music, even though fans of Soko, please check, you know, the money she makes. It's not a homeless rate, you know? But, like, basically, pop music is not just about money. It's artists, too. They have to toil over this. It's like, you can trash pop music as just mall music, but there's a lot of music that's considered pop, like the B-52s, that I think they're brilliant, and they had a sense of humor, and they were gorgeous, and they were really smart. It wasn't just, like, hipster stuff of, oh, I can cry. Yeah, who can? It's great, but...
I have a question. How did your dad not die?
How did he not die? Basically, I feel like he's angelic. Like, there's something, you know, about him that I think he has a very strong spirit, and he really has... I think he meant what he said, and so I think the weight of his spirit, people resonated with that in themselves as well, and so it's like, cosmically, they trust him. You know, it's like, they can relate in their own way and relate to him. It's a collaborative, beautiful sound, so it's like, I feel like his health has been from spiritually being able, you know, to be this beautiful human, to be scared, and to be elevated by this passion that he practices all the time. He always plays guitar.
From seeing his performances as you were a little kid on tour with him to seeing the performances now, what do you feel?
I feel like he's only gotten better with age. I feel like it's different. So it's like, you know, the audience is even younger than me normally. It has all sorts of fans. I feel like the performance is always, you know, it looks to me like if the reason why I think people resonate it when I see it today, because it used to be like all lighters and now it's all cell phones, so it's super creepy because I'm like, whoa, you replaced fire with a phone. Weird. And they're all filming the performance, and I'm like, I wish I could like buy a ticket to not watch a show and then watch it on my phone and watch it home. You're such a cool rock fan. But that's how I feel about it. But, you know, what's cooler than watching something on your cell phone while you're there, you know? That's how I feel like.
It's so meta.
Smart kids. Yeah, smart kids. That's what I'm saying. Like, your memories are of your cell phone, not a rock show. Like, that's where we're at.
If you're sober enough to, like, be recording the show in a precise way, then you're not enjoying it.
Yeah, I think what scares me is that people judge people, and these people are like robots. It's like at the point where it's like, oh no, I don't just go on the computer. It's like my friends, I text, I no longer call them. If I go to a show, I'm going to film it. If I'm in the car, it's an SUV with tinted windows, and like I have huge shades. It's like we're in the era of the apocalypse. Like if you go outside, it's totally like that.
Basically, they're like, you're talking about privilege. You're talking about like the apocalypse of the privileged. Like real shit is in like, you know, the slums of Egypt and shit. Like these aren't problems these people have. First world problems. I'm calling first world problems on you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's basically, though, it's like, in terms of, like, if you talk about Fela Kuti's rock show that was in Africa, where he had 7 wives and the government kept trying to kill him and his wives, that's, like, a different type of rock star and experience. Like, if you go to watch a show and then the government comes in for the top rock star and steals them and their wives, it's very different.
Bob Dylan, they're trying to shoot him up, like, because he wasn't in Jamaica, remember? Did you ever watch the Bob Dylan documentary?
Yeah, I think the thing with fanaticism is basically, it's like Noam Chomsky and Cornel West talk about privilege, and they say we're in an era where if we continue to use privilege for suffering, we're always going to be objectifying the people that are suffering. So it's not as much that privilege bad, it's the ignorance of people and then the narcissism of our culture to not engage anymore in life.
Okay, dumb it down for me, because I caught 2 words that I liked, and it was objectifying, what was it, poverty or objectifying?
Objectifying suffering is basically that if we exaggerate our culture without history to these extremes, that a lot of things are awesome, but we can't be replaced people with technology. So it's like that's the thing now. It's like
wait. Okay, you lost me again. You went
objectifying, because technology objectifies people. Is my point.
Wait, I thought we were objectifying like the poor people. Or were you talking about privilege?
The technology is a privilege. Like to have a computer is a privilege, and to have that type of identity is a privilege. Not just an art identity, but an identity to be like, you know, I can have a computer, I can have a Facebook profile, I can have
a podcast.
What?
I can have a podcast. I can Twitter. Like, it's a privilege.
Well, the thing is the freedom of speech is amazing. But if we take for granted the fact that we have to have the interactions in real life and still sustain nature, then why are we even doing it?
Babe, hold on.
It's basically...
I said most of my interviews have been like everyone's talking a very general sense of how they got here, what they're doing, and your interview has gone to like genocide, to philosophy, to all of these things.
Stuff I think about, you mean?
Because it's not very linear.
What's linear?
Shut up. You're such a brat.
Draw the straight line.
All right. So, what else is there? So, you live in a big purple house in Silver Lake. And I heard you got in trouble with the like neighbors because you painted the sidewalk purple.
That was like years and years ago, though.
Okay, let's talk about drama that's like recent.
Yeah.
Personal Annakim drama.
But I don't want all... It's like, I don't look at life as drama. Like, my biggest drama is that my horse had to get her teeth pulled. Like, I'm kind of like an old lady that reads Oscar Wilde and watches the news and, like, wants to do psych albums and documentaries.
Tell me about... What's your favorite Oscar Wilde quote?
You know, there's an interesting, I don't know if it's one quote, there's an interesting passage on America in Dorian Gray that I hadn't read in a while about how women act. And it was basically saying, like, if you give up the love of art, you're acting. And I think that was what I took from it recently.
Awesome. What is your horse's name?
My horse is named Nala, which means beloved daughter or water, and that was her name when I found her.
Where'd you find a horse?
On the internet.
Where is your horse?
In a secret location.
Where you keep your horse?
I don't private, like, stuff like that.
Sorry. Where? How many? How are all your dogs? This girl has lots of dogs.
They're fine. I have a really old French bulldog named Chupa that's like my, pride and joy. Basically, like, I feel like I'm spending most of my time now on, like, researching genocide and learning to play these weird bar scales on the guitar.
That's awesome. Do you have any more plans for music videos?
I do. Basically, I have, I think, 3 more videos coming out with the EP that I'm proud of, that I kind of want to keep a secret. It's basically everything on that EP was about media and war. And then, times are changing, so hopefully they'll get played out. And then more videos to come.
What is, I heard you were doing a documentary about the porn industry. I heard you doing a documentary on the porn industry.
Yeah, I was curious to do a documentary on the porn industry because of the lack of sexual rights that I feel like are around the world, and since Los Angeles is based as a figurehead for a lot of the porn industry, I thought it'd be a good place to start.
And what is the documentary focusing on?
Well, it's just the sex industry. I think in general, right now, we basically might actually not put porn. We might just make it about stripping and about, softcore. But it's what I was interested in is that these women normally get into this career, and it's a very debasing, psychologically strange profession, and it's not really as fun as it looks. And I think I was interested in how this is like a pastime, or like, why it's so common for people to be stripping to go to school, or to have, it doesn't end up in a good place. And so I think it's also just starting at that point, because I've been researching wider topics about sex trafficking, and so we just wanted to start there, basically.
So I have mixed feelings about it, because, there's first wave feminism that hates strippers, and there's second wave feminism that's like, well, if money's power and women want to get power, then, and if they use their sexuality to do it, what's the problem?
It's not, the thing is when you have to fake your sexuality for any person that comes in and act like a doll, versus doing like a thought out erotica with someone that you trust, and it's curated in a way that I think respects the woman, and she had input and was safe and has a dynamic and a chemistry, that's the message, that's beauty, that's wisdom, that's art. To have someone that needs to make money and is forced to be like entertainment at a club is, where they don't get healthcare and they pay for their spot. It doesn't look fun,
Well, it's not fun. They're not doing it for fun. They're doing it for money.
But it's not sexuality at that point. It's attention. It's not intimacy.
Everybody knows that, Annakim. Everyone knows that. It's economics at that point. It's some fat dude who wants to get a lap dance from a hot chick who would never ever fucking look at him, but is because he's fucking, has money and is gonna pay her for that 5 minutes.
Well, it's interesting to see that it's at a time period, though, where we have these baby beauty pageants where the girls now look more and more like a stripper. They no longer just look like a woman, they look like a young stripper woman. And this is why I'm wondering, like, why are we in a culture now where,
Are you drawing a correlation between baby beauty pageants and stripping?
Yeah, because these women have to lie about their age. They can't go past, like, I think, like, 26. Like, it's not a profession where, like, a 42-year-old stripper is, like, in demand. It's not a skill, really, at that point. So it's, like, it's interesting that we're breeding this culture that from a young age, it's, wear a ton of makeup, have a fake identity, like, everything's synthetic.
Superficial.
it's superficial and there's no grace to it. It's saying that that there's no way around it. And I think what's interesting is, you take burlesque and it's a bit classier. They have a routine and they have a respect for it. So what's interesting is how do you raise the bar, and like why,
Well, I feel like you're talking about a few different things, because burlesque is like kind of like a liberating thing and like a throwback thing and a bygone era of sexuality, and like all body types are accepted.
It was based on having an act with the sexuality, so it was based on something political, and it was based on something that I think was elegant. And I feel like the problem I have now is that, women are taught, like, wear the highest high heels, have this very uncomfortable aesthetic, and it's interesting that that's been cultivated. It's timely to be like,
it isn't timely. That is like culture from the beginning of time. Is like the most beautiful girl gets to be the geisha, gets to be the concubine, gets to be the like. That is rewarded in society, not the smartest woman. The smartest woman was just like, oh, shut the fuck up, you talk too much.
It's any woman that's willing to fill the place. I feel like the smart women and the beauty are the cultivating. There's tons of women that were beautiful during their time that fleed that, and there's other women that weren't allowed to and had to do it. So it's all kinds as well that got victimized. I think the irony is like we feel like, okay, there was witch trials and women. I'm not against nudity. I'm not against females having the sexuality, the rights. But I think to present that women always want to be turned on for anyone that walks in the room is creepy. That's not power.
But this goes back to privilege. Like, those women are trying to get out of their position using what they have. So if you have nothing, like, I mean, even me, like, even modeling, like, I have no education, yet
that's what I'm getting at, is we have a culture that doesn't want to educate women for a young age and talk them into, like, hey, things like math, they're not boring. They could help you be an architect. They could help you do anything. Or, like, it's not taught to young girls to really think that if you're thinking about stuff, you could travel, you could do anything you want, you could have a job. They're taught from a very young age to be discouraged and to be like, you could have babies. And, like, Jesus would have babies. So, like, share it with the world.
Jesus didn't even have any babies.
Yeah. Huh?
Jesus was single.
You're single?
Jesus was single.
So they say. I think he really liked hookers, though.
I think you should do a documentary about maybe math
related to Jesus, like do like a OK Cupid. Like
OK Cupid for Jesus. He was single. I think you should do something about like women engineers or women mathematicians, not like throwing stones at strippers. Okay, society already hates strippers in porn society.
This is a judgment on strippers. What it is basically saying, like, where do we take it from here? Like, how do you make it from a point of that we're not fighting against sexuality, we're not fighting against the progressive rights of women, or, and that's where I'm going with it, is basically, like, how do you make it so that we have a society that can sexually have sex ed in school, have things like Planned Parenthood and a sexual education, and not censor, art, and still, have women
respect themselves.
Yeah, respected, and those choices are more normal than the latter. Because I feel like right now, I'm realizing how huge this industry is and how normal it is for every woman's experience to be exploited.
Well, model, actress, whatever, modeling and acting is based on the exploitation of women.
But I also feel like there's enough knowledge and wisdom, and there's enough change, and there's amazing shit out there. It's just a matter of demand. Like, what are people demanding at this point, and what are they focusing on?
More porn on YouTube. On YouPorn.
YouPorn? A unicorn?
No, more porn on YouPorn.
I mean, if people can't get laid and they need to have like a cyber buddy, and they want to have somebody like that, and that makes them feel fulfills whatever, that's great. But I also feel there's more out there, like you said. Did you say that?
I don't know, Annakim. Annakim, do you have anything else you want to plug here on Model Actress Whatever?
What else would I like to plug? I would basically just like to say that it's going to be like a rad year for music, and I'm excited for all my friends' albums that are coming out, and I can't wait.
All right. Annakim, you're the best. Love you forever, like you for always. Thank you for being on Model Actress Whatever.
Eternal chaos and love. Peace.
Wow, what a really random conversation. That was Annakim Violette on Model Actress Whatever. Talk to you guys next week.
It's also sugarless.